All right. First of all, I want to apologize because I don't want this to be a frontal presentation. I would have preferred we could have sat in a circle. That would have been a little bit more conducive to a session on Niggunim, but we'll make do with what we've got. Before we start out, I think a demonstration would be in order. So please sing with me. Thank you, everybody, for joining me with that one. So, that was the demonstration. Can anybody name for me what is a nigun? Anybody? Show of hands. Does anybody know? What's a nigun? Wordless melody. Wordless Jewish melody. Wordless melody, right? You can find so many examples of this throughout Judaism. I mean, you can find wordless melodies in secular music lots of times as well. I will tell you, Niggunim was my thesis topic when I was in cantorial school for my degree. And it was actually a sign from the universe. I was trying to figure out what my topic would be. And Piano Man comes on the radio. And I thought, well, that's it. The universe is telling me it should be Niggunim. And I'm not sure if Billy Joel is Jewish, by the way, but I'm not sure how familiar he is with Jewish practice. So did he know that that was a Jewish element that he was throwing into that song, or was it just people at the bar singing together, right? Unknown, but Niggunim have a real power to bring people together. And I want to point out, first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of Niggunim. So Niggun, sometimes it's spelled different ways, N-I-G-G-U-N, N-I-G-U-N, or N-I-G-N, right? Depending on, it can get confusing that way. But at any rate, whichever way you prefer to pronounce or spell, it comes from the Hebrew shoresh, the root nun gimel nun, which indicates making music. And that original root actually indicates making music with instruments, by the way. But of course, a nigun can certainly function without the use of instruments, right? It really is known really from the Yiddish nigun, or like a Yiddish or niggin, it's sometimes they spell it N-I-G-N, right? So that's sort of the history of it. It really traces back to the Hasidic movement. So that's Eastern Europe in the 18th century. So it's a pretty long time ago. Something really remarkable happened in the time since then, which was Neo-Hasidism, right? The Neo-Hasidic movement that occurred within the last century really revived this aspect, really revived Hasidism, and Niggunim is a really, really big part of that. One of the things that is so incredible about Niggunim is that no matter what denomination of Judaism you look at, every single denomination can take part in a nigun, whether they know what it is or not, whether they could say, this is a nigun, doesn't matter. If you start singing Yai Lai Lai, they're gonna start singing with you, right? Because they already know the words. So it's a really important thing, right? Because sometimes, and this is actually part of the Neo-Hasidic movement, part of the motivation was to transcend beyond the words of the text, right? So in many regards, prayer, it can be uplifting, it can be soulful, it can be a lot of things. It can be expiating our guilt, it can be love for God, it can be expressing our unity as a people, right? It can be a lot of things. But sometimes it can be limiting, right? Words limit what we're trying to do. So the music then, without the words, gives us an opportunity to express something beyond, right? So that's part of what Niggunim are trying to do. I want to point out that it's not just that, because sometimes a nigun is associated with a text. I'm gonna actually pass this around if people want to take a look. I have here a nigun anthology. It's volume 3 from Transcontinental. It has a little bit chunk missing from probably one of my cats biting it off, but I'll pass it around and I'll give you a chance to flip through, because you'll see, whether you can read music or not, you'll see there's many different names of the nigunim in here, because when it comes down to it, what do you name a nigun when there's no words in there, right? Will they all have the same name, nigun? Is that what it is, right? So I'm gonna pass this around. You can flip through. I think there are a couple really cool examples in here that you might get a kick out of, so I'm gonna pass it around over here. Feel free to take a look and pass it back, and it'll come back around. Okay. So nigunim. So they express something that is a little bit beyond the words, but when you have a melody, sometimes it is associated with a text. Like, la 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 lecha dodi, there's a la 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 in there, right? Sometimes there's a wordless part that goes in there. In lots of different texts. Right? Shiru ladonai shir chadash, right? That's an example of a nigun, right? That's the melody, but then you also do have a text that fits it. Sometimes, sometimes the text went together and then the nigun is a chance to continue the melody beyond the text, or sometimes maybe the nigun existed before the text and then people found a text that fits it. There are lots of different examples of how that can come to be. I also think that there is something really special about nigunim in terms of the expressiveness. So does anybody, like when we just sang that nigun at the beginning, does anybody want to raise your hand and point out something you noticed about how you felt when we were singing it together or when you were listening? Anybody? Yeah? Yeah, you.
Part of the word
Part of the group. That's wonderful. Anybody else? What did we feel when we were singing that, when we were listening to that? Yes? Comforting. Okay, great. Yes. What else? Yes? That is a big part of it. A lot of Niggunim, they have a sense of energy building, right? You build, and it's ecstatic at a certain point. Of course, before you end, you do have to bring it back down, but that sense of energy, yes. What else? Yeah. Peace and focus, absolutely, yes. Yeah. Joy, absolutely. Niggunim are a wonderful expression of joy. Anything else? So these are just, yeah. Uplifting, yes. These are just some of the examples of what a nigun can do. Pick a different nigun, and different types will bring out different emotions, will elicit different reactions in you. And sometimes they're in minor keys, sometimes they're in major keys. I think we often do associate Jewish melodies with minor keys, but there are many nigunim that are in major keys as well. That doesn't necessarily just mean happy, sad, but it just is a different method of expressing. If I can get this to work, I'm gonna play an example for you. And remember how I said with instruments, right? I mean, I know I was using guitar. This is a pretty cool example. If I can get it to work.
Bluetooth mode.
Yes, we'll see if it works. I have not paired these before, so bear with me one moment here. I want to share with you an example of a nigun that it really expresses that sense of ecstatic joy. But I do want you all to be able to hear it, so just give me 1 second with the Bluetooth. Here we go. Add a device. Let's see. Bluetooth. Here it is. Okay. I think this is going to work. All right. It's connected. Woo. All right. So this melody, this is Yonatan Razel. I don't know if anyone's familiar with him. Great Israeli artist. And this is called A Nigun Meets an Orchestra. I think that's a really good example of what can be done with instrumentation when it comes to a nigun. Obviously, most of the time when people are singing nigunim, it's communal singing, which is really fantastic. And it's usually in a circle. Maybe there's a couple of instruments, but here, putting a whole orchestra into it. Did you all notice? I pointed out a couple of the things, right? So there were times when more voices were coming in. There was there was the interlude in between, and then the violin came back in the next chorus, and it came in doing something different, and then the piano matched energy with that, and they were playing off of each other. Did you notice some of those things? So each time that the melody was sung, it was a little different, right? So that is one of the senses of building energy that you get when you make a nigun. So part of what can be done with that for communal singing is speeding it up, maybe getting louder, right? So building dynamics and building energy through different musical means. So like I said, there is a history with nigunim of being associated with instruments. Yes? Is dancing allowed? I love that question. Yes, you often see. I noticed a lot of you when I was playing this one, you were nodding your head or tapping your foot, right? That sense of energy that you feel, like I said, there is a sense of ecstatic joy a lot of times when it comes to nigun. And so yes, sometimes there will be dancing. Among the Hasidic Jews, they would dance separately, right? They wouldn't be mixed, but yeah, they often do dance with nigunim. It's a great question. Any other questions so far or any comments? Yeah. Yes, we're going to sing some more. Absolutely. I'm glad you're bringing us to it. So yes. So basically uplifting, energy building. And I also want to point out also a teaching tool. Right? A lot of times, I mentioned that there are some texts that are associated with nigunim. If you learn the melody first and you it, then you can then go about teaching certain Hebrew texts, sometimes making a text smaller. And also, I want to also tell you a little bit about the way a nigun is typically built. I see it's coming around. So a chance to look through some of the nigunim in the songbook that I passed around. Now, oftentimes there's at least an A section and a B section. Do you guys all know what that would mean with music? Okay, so the first nigun that we did was the Into the West nigun. A section, right? And we repeated it. B section, right? So switching between an A section and a B section gives you a chance to continue building that dynamic and that energy, right? Sometimes a nigun will even have a C section, and sometimes they can even layer over each other, right? There can be a type of singing, like in canon, where you can put different melodies over each other. They layer and they fit together sonically, right? I'm gonna share a few more examples. This is a nigun written by a really good friend of mine, Cantor Bryce Magdal, and she calls it I Diddy Die. So again, you know the words. They often switch between yai, lie, die, right? Or diddy die, or bim bam. Sometimes there's an oi in there, right? So those are typically the types of sounds that we use. It's very interesting, by the way, that they're all frontal. They're all formed in the front of the mouth. You're never going to hear a ka ka kai ga kai ga 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 ga. You're never going to hear that in the back. You're going to all come into the front of the mouth. But here's I Diddy Die. Once you catch on, please join me. I diddy die, diddy die, die, die. I diddy die, die, die. I diddy die, diddy die, die, die. I diddy die, die, die. I right, so you can see that one had a very different sort of energy to it. Could anyone want to describe what you felt with that one?
A lullaby.
What was it?
A lullaby.
A lullaby, okay. Mellow, yes, absolutely. Yes, anything else? Yeah. Yes. Yes. And in fact, on the top of the page, it says, well, when it says the meter, it says with flow, right? It has a sense of flow to it, right? It is, that is like, so you can see, this isn't, I don't think this is really the type where you necessarily want to build up fast, because I think this is the kind where you want to keep it mellow, where you want to keep that side of the energy, right? So there are different uses that different Niggunim will have depending on how they feel, right? I want to talk a little bit about the process of creating a Niggun. So I'm going to share one that I actually wrote, and I'm going to share with you a little story about where it came from first, okay? So I wrote it in 2020, mid-March 2020. So you might guess what some of the motivation behind it was. So this was just a little into the pandemic, just like very quickly, very soon into the pandemic. And the place that I was serving in a part-time pulpit obviously pivoted online, as we all did across the world. And at the beginning of the service, we always like to start with a Hine Matov, right? And Hine Matov, if you look at the Hebrew, what it means, how good it is for us to be together, right? And we weren't. So it felt a bit of a disconnect to me to be singing Hine Matov when we weren't together. I mean, we were together in a way, in a manner on the screens, but we weren't able to sing together either, because Zoom, as fantastic as it is, still has some limits in place, right? So, so this is, I call this a Nigun shel kemiha, which is a Nigun of longing. And it came from the same chords as Hine Matov, but it's a different melody. Let's sing it together. So did you guys, thank you. Did you guys feel the longing in that song, right? So that's how I intended it, and yet I used the same chords of Hine Matov, and I just turned it around a little bit, how wishing for company, for us to be together, and obviously we're so thankful that we can be together now, post-pandemic, but that's where that song came from. And I even actually, I ended up, when I was sitting down with it and playing with it a little bit, I even was able to layer the parts over each other. So the other part came in, so they were able to kind of weave over each other. So I did that, and that was the way that the only way I could sing with anybody was with myself. So yes.
How long did it take you?
I wrote that that didn't, sometimes when the muse strikes, songs write themselves, and they feel like they write themselves. Some of my favorite songs of mine that I've written were written in 15 minutes. So sometimes you go to write a song and it takes forever and you can't get it out, but sometimes it just comes to you. So this was one of those circumstances where it came to me. Okay, so I'm gonna, I also wrote another nigun here that I called a reflectiker nigun. So it's Yiddish, a reflective nigun. Let me see if I can, do this one. Here we go. See if you can feel that sense of reflectiveness in it. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. Die, da, die, 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 die. Die, 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 da, die. Die, da, die, 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 die. Die, 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 da, die. Die, da, die, 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 die. Die, 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 da, 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 die. I die, 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 da, 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 die. Die, da, die, 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 die. Die, da, die, 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 die. Right, so a lot of the same chords were used, right? But you see how it feels a little bit different from the previous one, right? Not the same sense of longing to it, just a sense of, well, tell me, does anybody feel, what did you feel with that one? How did it feel different from the other ones we've done? Comfort, okay. It flowed more, right, absolutely. A little bit of melancholy. And peaceful, yes, absolutely. That can all be woven into one with a nigun, with Jewish music especially, yes. Minor keys. Yeah, anything else? Yeah, so I think those are all the kinds of things that, that came to me when I wrote that one. Now, does anybody, okay, has the songbook come around yet? Have people been passing it around? Has anybody seen anything interesting that you would like to note that when you flipped through it? Anything that popped out at you when you were looking at some of the different songs in there? Anybody? Well, I'll tell you, there's one in there that I thought was so interesting. There is one in there called the Cucumber Nigun. The Cucumber Nigun. And so it has a subscript underneath that explains that the writer came up with the melody while cutting a cucumber. So it became the Cucumber Nigun, right? So we never know what's coming to us, right? Any different moment, and what can it elicit in us, and what can, how can we express it? So Niggunim, some of them have historical roots. One of them was called the China Camp Nigun, right? So there are many different names in there, and the Bretzlaver Nigun, there's two of them, right? Bretzlaver Nigun, right? Bretzlaver Rebbe, right? So a lot of those roots, the Hasidic roots and things like that. So there are lots of different ways of getting some of these melodies out. I want to switch gears into some of the some other Nigunim here. So I'm gonna switch to one that's called David's Nigun, which again, a lot of these are in that book. Let me see if I. All right. Yeah, see if you can find it in there. Ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la that one has ABC. So why don't we break it down, and I'll just teach it little piece by piece, okay? I'll go slower. Ya la 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 ya la la ya la la la. Let's try that much. Ya la 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 ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Good. Ya la 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 ya la la la. Same as the first part. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Here's the B section. Ya la 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 la. Let's try that. Ya la 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 la. Good. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. The same again. Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Here comes the C section. Ya la la, ya la la. Let's try those two. Ya la la, ya la la. Same idea, it goes up. Ya la la, ya la la. Let's try that. Ya la la, ya la la. And ya la 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 la. Try that. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. So let's put that together. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 So before we close up, I'll just do one more, lest you think that all Niggunim are all in minor keys. We'll end with one that's in a major key. Let's see. Yes. The one that I just did is by Cantor Rebecca Schwartz, a friend of mine. I co-wrote a song with her, completely over Zoom. I haven't met her in person yet, I don't think, but she's very talented. And yeah, so of the ones that I shared, the first one was Into the West Nigun by Nava Tehila. They're an Israeli group. The second one that I shared was Yonatan Razel. That's a Nigun meets an orchestra. The third one that I shared and the fourth one that I shared were both mine, original ones. The third one I shared was Cantor Bryce Magdal. That was her I Diddy Die. Then the fourth and fifth ones were mine. The one I just did is Cantor Rebecca Schwartz and David Aharon Al Curtis, who co-wrote it with her, which I assume is why it's called David's Nigun. And the next one I'm gonna do here, I've got two options, so let me think here. Okay, I'm gonna do the Sunrise Nigun. And then maybe for those of you who actually stay the whole night, you can do this one when the sun rises. Okay. And this one is by Lisa Silverstein Soor. Okay. Let's try that together. Here's the B section. It's gonna repeat. So, of course. So you see, there are Niggunim in major keys too. And that one is called Sunrise Nigun by Lisa Silverstein Soor. And I think you can see it does evoke the sunrise, right? It has a sense of optimism and hopefulness to it. So different nigunim, different melodies, a lot of different ways of expressing humanity, right? Some of them are prayers, and some of them are a little bit beyond that. But all of them speak to us in a way that, that words alone cannot, right? So maybe you'll be chopping a cucumber and you'll think, hey, here's this melody. Maybe you'll find a way to write your own nigun. So that's the next step. You don't need words to write a melody. And how can it speak to you? And then you can share it with other people. So I hope that you felt comforted and energized and uplifted and energized, all the different things that these nigunim can invoke in all of us. And hopefully we can bring some of that energy with us into the rest of this evening.